please have your attention, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you. Live from the Lions Den Golf Club studio, here are your hosts, Mark Freeman and Weldon Braxton.
It is Friday on the Sports Blitz. Thank you for taking time to join us today. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton, Maddie Lassiter, and a special guest you'll get to see in the second segment of the show today. Got a lot of stuff to talk about today as we preview the AFC and NFC championship games. We'll tell you who's going to be in the Super Bowl. We were right last weekend with who was going to be in the semifinals in the AFC and NFC championships. We're going to tell you who's going to be in the Super Bowl. We won't go as far as to tell you who's going to win the Super Bowl yet, because it just wouldn't be fair for us to tell you that 3 weeks in advance. But
that's right.
You've got the best games that we could have asked for in the AFC and NFC championship games, and we look forward to talking about that. We've also got high school basketball and some stuff that's going on with the Arkansas Razorbacks. Still looking for a defensive coordinator. Some questions about what's going on. Now, all the Arkansas fans that I've heard from promote Randy Shannon yesterday. You know, make him the defensive coordinator. Why is he not the guy? If he is or is not the guy. If he was going to be the guy, I think they had already named him. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I'm looking forward to the conversation on that. And we'll talk about the Arkansas basketball team traveling to Georgia tomorrow. Early tip on the road. Usually, an early tip on the road favors the road team most of the time.
You would think so, Mark, for the simple reason of the crowd may not be as lubricated, we'll put it that way, and you may come in and steal one, but I'm looking forward to today's show, Mark. You outline the things that I want to look at. You're right. A lot of people do want Randy Shannon elevated as defensive coordinator. It has not happened yet. I am one of the fans who have not necessarily been critical because that move has not been made. I think fans at home have to understand that a lot more has to be taken into account than what may appear on the surface. Basketball, Mark, this is a game where, and we were talking about this before the show, can you go out on a limb and can you pick Arkansas? I think Arkansas, all things being equal, I think they're the better basketball team, but we know how it is. We know it's on the road. It's at Georgia. Georgia's off to a pretty good start in SEC play. They did get blown out by Florida, but when you go to the O-Dome, there's nothing to be ashamed of getting blown out down there.
That happens.
It does happen. It's happened to a number of teams, and we're going to talk about this later on, but making our picks, do we have the guts to pick Arkansas on tomorrow? You'll have to stick around and find that out, Mark. And as you said, we do have what could be the best championship game Sunday we've seen in quite some time. You have the 4 Super Bowl favorites in the preseason, according to Las Vegas, in the NFC and AFC title games. Of course, you have the physical, rugged defenses in the NFC, the young quarterbacks on that side up in Seattle. And then on the other side, you've got the Sheriff against Mr. Cool, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, throwing down for what could be the last time in the postseason. We'll have to see. So I'm looking forward to our picks and our discussion today.
I'm looking forward to talking a little about The Wire, not the TV show. Our
That's
Wire
what you
segment.
talk
I
about.
wish, come at the king. You best not miss. I'd love to talk about the Wire of the show, but there's a lot of topics. There are a lot of topics that we want to hit across the world of sports. Are the Heat in trouble? Lost 3 games in a row now, 27-11. Are they in trouble? Is there something to be worried about if you're a Miami Heat fan? I submit to you the answer is no. So there you go. We've talked about it.
That conversation
That was
over?
a short one.
It's over.
Because I just don't think they care much right now. Greg Oden did play the other night, though.
And he looked good, too. He got up and down the floor. He had a couple of dunks, putbacks, rebounds. And more importantly, Mark, he didn't have any soreness. Came back a couple of days later, checked him out. He's good to go. I agree with you, Mark. Not really worried about the Miami Heat. I do think Indiana's in a better position this year than they were last year to overtake Miami, but I'm still not ready to pick Indiana to win the East.
Do you think Miami's going to get Andrew Bynum, as has been the talk? Now, Miami cleared some cap room the other day. They traded Joel Anthony. They traded 2 draft picks, and they got under the repeater tax to now where, if they wanted to, they could sign Andrew Bynum for the veteran minimum, and they could make it work under the cap. And if Andrew Bynum was any good at all, I think that's why they played Greg Oden the other night.
Yeah.
Just to see, okay, has he come along far enough to where we don't have to worry about this guy, or should we hedge and put some money in toward Andrew Bynum? I think it's a no-lose situation for the Heat, but I don't know that I'd put any money in Andrew Bynum's pocket.
Yeah, and I think you're right about Greg Oden. They want to see if he can play, because I got to tell you, I can't see them wanting to add Andrew Bynum. And here's why, and the point's already been made. I'm just going to reiterate it. Andrew Bynum is a weird dude. And that matters because from a chemistry standpoint, when you look at the vibe LeBron and Wade and Birdman, those guys kind of having that locker room. Greg Oden, he's a young guy. He likes to kind of laugh and be part of the guys. It kind of flows pretty nice. Andrew Bynum's the kind of dude that, he likes to be off to himself. He likes to squeeze himself in those little bitty race cars that somehow he gets into. And he's kind of just like off on his own, kind of a weird, leave me alone kind of guy. I don't think he would flow at Miami. I know when it comes to winning a championship, they would try to just make it work, but I think they would much rather Greg Oden just stay healthy and fill that role.
Well, you're probably right, and that's probably why they did what they did the other day playing Greg Oden. He looked good. Man, I feel terrible for that guy. I was talking with Coach Hill, Garrett Hill, about that last night, about how, he's been through the ringer in 4 years. He hadn't played a game in 4 years. 83 games in his entire NBA career. One more game than a full season in 4.5 years that he's played so far. So he's been through it all. And if there's ever somebody that you want to root for to be able to come back and be at least something similar to their old self, he's the guy that I'd be rooting for to play well. And I'm with you. I don't like Andrew Bynum, but if he means that the Heat beat the Pacers,
yeah,
I'm all right with
if they have to do it, they may do it. And you're right. Greg Oden's a good dude. Obviously, at Ohio State. Here's a guy, Mark. He can play. It's just been his health. It's not like even when healthy, he's some lumbering, uncoordinated tree. This dude has good hands. His offensive game wasn't anything spectacular, but he still had a good coordination about him. He can give you a pretty good contribution if healthy, and that's the key.
We'll look a little bit at baseball. They've expanded replay. We'll talk about the implications of that here in a little bit. Neither one of us are big baseball fans, but that is big news for baseball, and those of you who actually do like baseball, so we'll give you that. Got our CrossFit Russellville poll question today, simply asked, who's going to be playing in the Super Bowl and why? I hate to give yes or no answers or just one-word answers, so give me the why. Tell me why you think San Francisco or Seattle is going to win. Tell me why you think Denver or New England's going to win, and we'll talk a little bit about it in the second segment. But let's look real quickly at our Peters Family Living local sports look. Got a lot of high school basketball going on. Matter of fact, there was some junior high basketball action last night that I need to pass along. I was at Lamar Atkins last night and got to see the Lamar Lady Warriors. A couple of my youth kids from church go to Lamar, played and won that game last night, and Lamar Junior High girls won, and then the Atkins Junior boys won. Hats off to them on the win. You also had the Russellville Junior High, East and West. Last time ever, we've talked about the East-West debate and whether or not they should stay two schools in sports or go back to one. They chose to go back to one. The West won in boys basketball. I think they won in girls basketball as well. Last ever matchups between those two teams. Which teams did you play for?
I was on the East. So really, and this is the last meeting ever.
Ever.
Really?
I guess they could possibly meet in a tournament.
We
said that about volleyball, and then they met in the finals of the tournament. So they could, I guess, meet in a tournament, but I don't know the records or anything like that. But either way, it was the last regular season meeting ever.
Well, you look at it, Mark, and it's been something that, it's been going on. I was in the early part of them. They were first getting it together. I think my class may have been the first or second class to go through it from 7th grade all the way through. I'm not sure. But, it can serve a purpose. I know we've had this discussion. I know the debate went on over the last few months, but if possible, it is nice when you can have two schools. We talk about player development, being able to develop two sets of kids at the same time, but for competitive reasons, for numbers reasons, from what I understand, participation numbers haven't been ideal over the last few years, and therefore competitively things haven't been where you'd want them to be. So that's kind of the reason for the change. But I hate to see it go. There was some really good battles over the years. Like I said, I played through the system, had a lot of fun. competing with guys on the east side and going up against friends on the west side. So, it's coming to an end. Hopefully the Russellville Cyclone and Whirlwind Athletic Program can, figure out a way to still develop players and be competitive at the high school level in spite of only having one school or one team.
We'll talk about the Cyclones here in just a minute as they've got a game tonight, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention football information just real quickly. Yesterday we were invited and we were glad to go out to Hector because 4 Wildcat seniors became part of Lyon College's first football recruiting class. 4 guys from one high school, especially being here in Hector. Now, they had a great season in 2A school here in the River Valley, but to be on the same, the first ever recruiting class for Lyon College, that's a big deal for those guys. And those 4 guys were Eric McGowan, Sean Lusk, Chris Poole, and Jeff Proctor. I'm going to say congratulations to those guys on signing their letters of intent to play for the Lyon College Scots. Well, you know about the recruiting aspect and the angle of stuff that's going on in smaller division classification school football. But for these 4 guys, man, just being a part of a football program at the next level is an honor because a lot of us didn't get to put on a uniform after high school.
Yeah, it's a big deal. You look at Lyon College, Mark, as you said, they're bringing their program back for the first time in the modern era. It's been several decades since they've played football, trying to get things going. They've recruited this area really well. They've gotten some players from other schools here in the River Valley, and it is something special once you can sign somewhere, you can extend your career beyond playing high school ball. Mark, as you said, a lot of people don't have that opportunity, and as you said, I do speak from experience, being able to speak with kids who were unsure of their future, who had some talent, but may not be from a physical standpoint ready for Division II or Division I football, and just another avenue for them to play. And in our case, it's different in NAIA, but in our case, the opportunity to possibly extend your career beyond here, in NAIA, you're going to have a full term to play college football. So it's great for those individuals and it's great for those players.
It's definitely a big deal. Again, Eric McGowan, Sean Lusk, Chris Poole, and Jeff Proctor, huge congratulations. Thank you for having us out there. Go to rivervalleyleader.com and you'll see it on the featured slider at the front page, and you can read about that event, see some photos from it. It was a good time, and we appreciate them having us out. Back to basketball, though, the Russellville Cyclones won 2 games in a row on buzzer beaters, beat Conway 55-53, and then they come back around and Tony Jones hits a 3 at the buzzer to beat Fort Smith Northside, and the Cyclones, man, starting conference 2-0. They've got a tall test tonight as they travel to Little Rock Parkview and they play one of the state's best teams regardless of classification, and they play a team who going into the 6A, if you're going to win it, you're going to have to go through a team like Little Rock Parkview.
Yeah, there's no question about it. Russellville, they've got their hands full tonight with Little Rock Parkview, boys and girls for that matter. But Parkview is a team you still have to take seriously. We talk about losing different guys. We know everybody kind of transferred, migrated to another school in the area that we won't talk about. But still, Parkview's got a lot of talent, a lot of athleticism. No question they will be heavily favored tonight against the Russellville Cyclones. But if you're Russellville, you're 2-0 in conference. You've got some momentum. You've got some confidence about you. We've talked about Coach Mann, the situation with his family, and we're still, thinking about he and his father, and the kids are clearly playing inspired based on that. So I expect Russellville to put forth a solid effort. Guard play will be big. So fortunately for Russellville, they do have good guards. And when you talk about the Cyclones, Mark, it's always about that outside shooting. And so if they can get some open shots, which will be tough to do, but if they can and get something to fall down, then maybe they'll be in this game. But we know their work is cut out for them.
It's definitely going to be a tough one for the Cyclones tonight. The 6A state tournament, it was announced yesterday by the AAA, is going to take place in Jonesboro. That's about as far away as you can get as far as, there are some places, El Dorado and places like that you could go that would suck worse. But going to Jonesboro for the state tournament, the Russellville Cyclone's going to be there as everyone else in the 6A will as well. So they'll have a chance to go through, man, Jonesboro, Parkview, Hall is back down in 6A. They're going to have a tough run through the 6A, but I know Coach Mann and the gang, if they can hit some threes and they can play some D, they'll be able to make a run and have a chance there in the 6A. Moving down to 5A, the Clarksville Panthers beat Greenbrier 70-40 on Tuesday night. They play Shiloh Christian at home tonight, and the Panthers look to extend to a 39-game winning streak in conference. These guys who are freshmen or who are seniors now have not lost a game since their freshman year in conference play. 30 going for 39 in a row. They're going to get 39 in a row. Shiloh's not any good. And they're going to go ahead and have a chance next week against, I think, a week from tonight is when they're at Harrison.
Okay.
I have to make sure, but that would be, I guess, the 41st consecutive win if they were able to get it.
What's the record? Do we know?
Right now?
Or for a conference, overall conference consecutive wins. Is there a record?
Oh, I don't know.
Something they're chasing?
I'm sure there's a lot. There's some folks that have, don't lose at all in lower classifications. But
just like for Clarksville, like a Clarksville school
Clarksville
record?
I don't know. I'd have to ask Coach Davis. I know
bet they're close.
He's given me some information, and these guys have won 80-some% of their games over their career, which is impressive considering how they schedule. But they play the 5A state tournament will be in Alma this year. Now, Clarksville, they're excited about that because they're 2-0 in Alma, the two times they played there against the Airedales, and then the state championship game is in Hot Springs. Clarksville won 2 state championships in Hot Springs, and then the last 2 years has won the Spa City Classic in Hot Springs at Summit Arena. So they've got a lot of experience playing in that gym. If they're able to get back there, they're supremely confident that they can win in the 5A state championship game. They're going to have to get through a talented 5A schedule, though, as far as the state tournament goes, because you've still got Harrison, who's supposed to be very, very good this year. You've still got Morrilton, who's supposed to be good. You've got Jacksonville, who won it last year. You've got Camden Fairview, who's already beaten Clarksville once. You've got Forest City, who's got an Arkansas commit, and Trey Thompson. You got a lot of good schools in the 5A that Clarksville's going to have to deal with. But they're confident in their team and their ability to win at Alma in the state tournament and at Hot Springs in the championship game, should they make it that far. The Pottsville Apaches will be playing, I'm hoping, in the 4A state tournament that's at Lone Oak this year. Now, that's a long drive for the Apaches if they're able to make it that far, but that's neither here nor there. We got a little while before we get there. If they can continue like they have the last 2 games, they'll be in good shape. They beat Mena Friday of last week, 59-40, beat Dardanelle on Tuesday, 61-46. A lot of folks from around the state were picking Dardanelle to beat Pottsville and unseat them with the 3rd spot there behind Maumelle and Subiaco in the 4A4. The Apaches went over the Dardanelle and they quelled that pretty quickly. They beat them 61-46. They've got Waldron at home tonight for Colors Night. The Apaches looking to continue rolling. Dardanelle looking to get back on the right track. We'll run through the schedule here in just a second, but give your thoughts on that.
Well, Pottsville and Waldron, that jumps out at me. I think we expected Waldron to be a competitive team. I know, Mark, you were talking about Waldron. It's possibly a team getting in the mix, had a tough one against Maumelle, so we'll see how Pottsville's able to match up with them. It should be a game that they're able to get, but it won't be easy against Waldron. Again, Pottsville, said it many times, they're a team you just want to invest in right now. Even though they may be a little bit inconsistent, they're still a team that defensively, they're going to bring it. Offensively, they're getting better, so you got to watch out for the Apaches. We've
got Atkins at Lamar tonight. Danville is there's no way they're going to play at Atkins because they've got another game against Lamar. Looking here at the schedule, and it's a little off. Dardanelle tonight will be hosting Mena. Hector will be at hosting Conway St. Joseph's. Good thing that game's at Hector, because if it were at Conway St. Joe's, they'd get host. Dover hosting Subiaco Academy. We mentioned Lamar, Pottsville, Russellville, and let me see if there's anybody else. Two Rivers is going to be hosting Mansfield tonight. So that's some high school basketball action that you can go out and support your local team tonight. We're going to be joined by Corey Thone from the Woodshed right after this break. We're going to talk Arkansas Razorbacks. We're going to look a little bit at his show. He's probably going to give us some little tidbits and stuff to chew on as far as his show goes. It's going to be a fun one with him and Blake Smith. We'll give you a little bit of information about that, and we'll look at the wire right after this.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
It's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KARK4 today.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
We played for you on Wednesday some sound of Chuck Barrett calling Michael Quall's nice dunk to win the game against Kentucky. And it's leading us into today. We're going to talk a little bit of Arkansas Razorbacks basketball, football, and the like with our next guest, Mr. Corey Thone, who looks smaller than me despite being much larger than me and because he's further away from the camera. How are you doing? That's a great intro.
You gave a secret away, Mark.
Are you talking to me? I don't have headphones, so I didn't know if I was...
Okay, I'll see how it is.
No, I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
We
Thanks for having me
didn't
on the
hook
show.
him up with it.
We can't give
You
you
start off
headphones.
talking about my size. Like, that's the first thing.
That was well. I mean, I just look at the monitor. You look small, and I look like a giant.
I look like a raspberry, like
You
just
kinda
round
do.
and red. So, whatever. No, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the show, guys. Appreciate it.
Corey is going to be hosting he does at Arkansas Tech right now, but he's going to be hosting the Woodshed with Blake Smith here on Tuesdays starting February 4th. We'll talk a little bit about his show here in a little bit because he's got a fun show. It's a news and entertainment, sports, just a little bit of everything, and he's going to share with us his thoughts on he's a sort of opinionated. Now, you'll see some of the sizzle reel stuff, the stuff that they shot here in the studio not too long ago. He likes to give his opinion, so we wanted to get his thoughts on some Arkansas Razorback stuff. All right, Corey. Arkansas is playing Georgia tomorrow on the road. We were talking about this before the show. I said I was mad. Okay, I said I was mad about Texas A&M. I was mad during the Florida game. I was mad for 99% of the Kentucky game, and they win the game at the end. And I say, you say, how in the world can you be mad about something you expect? But I was mad.
Going into the A&M game, I said, this is it. This is a test of the season. I know that's not fair. I know that's probably not accurate. But going into that game, that is a team. Didn't they lose to North Texas
by 20 on their
home?
Yeah,
so going into that game, it was like if we win this game as we should because we have better players, a better coach, better everything. If we win this game, then we might actually have a chance to make the NIT this year. Maybe the tournament if we really turn on down the stretch. Then we lose by however much we lost to. And I said, I'm done. I'll go. I got tickets to some games at home going to this year. I'm going to go. I'm going to cheer. But this season is once again it's a wash because the only thing that can save it is if we beat Georgia this weekend. And maybe you can get me back into thinking, hey, we might have a chance at doing something. But we've already shown on the road we're going to play as bad as we have since.
So what you got? You got Georgia by 20 tomorrow. What you got?
Georgia by 15.
Georgia by 15.
No way.
Georgia.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
I don't think you can rule it out. I'm not saying
they're gonna be up. They're gonna be up by 8 or 9 with a minute left. We're gonna start fouling because we have to, and see teams, not just good teams, make their free throws for the most part. So they're gonna make their free throws. No, we don't know that here because we don't make free throws here, which it blows my mind because it is a throw that is indeed free. It isn't so easy that they named it free. They didn't call it, you might make this shot. It's called a free throw, but whatever.
Well, here's the problem. If you're Landis Harris, he literally throws it. I think that's the part. He thinks it means
it's not
I'm up
just
there
him.
and I throw it.
I actually paid attention. Believe it or not, despite my roundness, I know a thing or two about basketball. Qualls has a pretty good form on his free throw that I noticed.
I like Kai Madden's form too.
Madden uses too much arm, but he also has really long arms, so it works okay. But Portis, Harris, those guys' free throw routines are a travesty. They don't use any leg. It's not even like shoulder. It's elbow up, just like get it in and drop it. It's not how you shoot a free throw. It's terrible.
And the thing with Portis is you can tell, they showed the replay of Portis' free throw. And you can tell somebody had been working with him on it because he shoots it, he shorts arm it, then he's like, oh, I forgot. Coach told me to extend my arm. So when the ball's in midair, he goes, oh. See, I extended my arm. That's what Bobby Portis did in one of his free throws.
I think he makes, if he gets a 2-shot opportunity, he makes the second one almost every time, and he almost airballs the first one.
Yeah.
Because he's like, crap, I forgot to use my legs, or I forgot to make an L shape with my arm. Just whatever thing that you just basically do when you shoot a free throw, they don't do. So I hope we win. If we do beat Georgia, I'll be ecstatic, and I'll think maybe we can salvage this season and make the NIT. But I tell you right now, and I'm not saying this to be mean because I love Mike. I have one of my former coaches is on Mike's staff.
Yep, Coach Zimmerman.
Coach Matt Zimmerman, who I love to death. But if this season, if we don't, by the end of the season, see that improvement and maybe make the NIT or at least have a shot at making the NIT, and then next season it's the same thing, it's going to be tough to justify paying Mike Anderson what we pay him.
I don't disagree.
Million. Now, this is Friday on the Sports Blitz. You don't get this kind of analysis about free throws and form anywhere else. Well, we thank you for joining us today, Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton, joined by Corey Thome from the Woodshed. Here in just a little bit, we'll talk about his show, but we want to look at Arkansas football. We had an interesting conversation before the show about Arkansas football, and before we move on, I think we're going to get beat by Georgia just because I think every road game from here on out, Arkansas is going to lose until they win.
Until they show.
And so I'll just go there.
It's got to be time out. It's got to be a mental thing at this point. It doesn't. It 100% because
that's why you bring in a sports psychologist like Mike Anderson.
This team is good. This is a good team with they have some young players, but it's not they don't have any upperclassmen that see the floor. They have some juniors that are out there playing. I mean, this is a good team, and when they showed that when they should have beat Florida, and they did beat Kentucky. And I saw a Florida fan comment on this. Some A&M fan said, "Wow, the team we beat Kentucky. That's pretty good for us." And they said, it doesn't count. You didn't play them at Bud Walton. They play like the Bucks on the road, and they play like the Heat at home. It's not fair. And it's not wrong. I don't know what the problem is. I'm not a psychoanalysis rocket surgeon, but something is wrong with the mentality of those kids. And I don't know how to
exercise
fix
the demons tomorrow, 12:30.
Yes,
against Georgia Bulldogs. Speaking of something wrong, last year in football, something was wrong.
A lot was wrong.
3-9, won 3 games, lost the rest of them. Just a terrible end of the season. We understand that. Arkansas is now searching for a defensive coordinator. Chris Ash goes to Ohio State. Can't necessarily blame him, but who's going to be the next guy? What's next year going to look like? Corey, I know you had some passionate thoughts about this. We vehemently disagree about this, so you're going to enjoy this. Your thoughts on next year's Arkansas football team?
3 or 4 wins.
Why do you not think they're going to be any better?
I'm not saying they're not going to be better. I'm saying our schedule is a death sentence.
Okay, one of the things, though, that you said was that Texas Tech was going to beat Arkansas down next year.
I think so. I think they have a system in place. I don't think that it's dependent upon having that quarterback. I think that they're going to be able to find a guy to step in there that can throw accurate passes 60 times a game. And you don't have to throw great passes against the Arkansas defense. If you can get it in the general area, our corner's not going to make a play on it. So just get it there. It can be a duck. And NIU, another team that people, just like with Rutgers, both times, by the way, just like with Rutgers and just like with who was it Monroe that beat us? Yeah. We're just like, oh, well, I've never heard of this team because I'm from Lone Oak, so we're going to beat these guys by 50, right? No, NIU is a really good program. They had a Heisman finalist this year, and yeah, they're losing him, but they're a MAC team, and we're going to get a first-hand experience of some white-hot action, and they're going to throw it all over the field. All into the flats, too. The worst part for us, where we have to run up, and they're going to dump it 3-yard outs constantly and turn it up for a 7-yard gain. And I mean, I think especially against NIU, but against Texas Tech, we'll have some success offensively running the ball until they realize that we can't throw it, and then they'll put 8 guys in the box like every team did. And that's it.
What do you think Arkansas will be improved? I know you're saying their schedule is going to be the primary reason why they're going to struggle.
I think it was obvious how much Arkansas improved last season by our last 2 games.
Right.
We honestly, we had a good chance to Mississippi State. If we were going to win an SEC game, that was going to be it. But did you know no first-year coach at Arkansas has ever beat Mississippi State?
Yeah, that's a crazy stat.
That's a crazy stat because Mississippi State's universally bad, all the time. But we lost that game because we had them in Little Rock.
In Little Rock, yeah. The Rock.
We lost that game in the Rock because our defense just honestly can't make a stop in the fourth quarter because we don't have any depth. Those guys have been playing 4 straight quarters because you think that's bad. I try to tell people, do you think that Tevin Mitchell's bad? Who's his backup that's not playing? That's the thing. So, we could have beat LSU too if we'd have had some lucky breaks and made a stop on a 99-yard drive, whatever. But with
a backup quarterback,
by a freshman quarterback that everybody kind of agrees isn't that good.
No, I saw the Iowa game. Oof.
Yeah, so we had improved though as a team by the last 2 weeks, and we're going to see improvement throughout this all offseason. Have a full year of the strength coach. Doing what he does with J.J. Watt and stuff with these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to see improvement, but we're in the SEC West, and I don't think the SEC West is going to be as good next year as it was this year, and I know for a fact it wasn't as good this year as it was the year before. So,
you're right.
We're finally starting to see some leveling off, but it's not going to change the fact that we're probably the worst team in the West.
All right. I don't know about that. Now, the fact that we're going to
don't doubt Dan Mullen. He'll get those 6 wins.
Yeah, the fact that Arkansas is playing in Starkville is the only reason that I would say that that's even a possibility because I don't think Mississippi State's very good, and I think Arkansas even.
Hang on,
last
say that
year,
again. You don't think what?
Mississippi
clang
State.
it. What?
Yeah. At Mississippi State with the Cowbells, I understand. But looking at the schedule, and Jason Kilburn just tweeted in, he said he's with you. It's going to be a long year next year. You start the season at Jordan-Hare and with Auburn, but you got Nicholls State. I think you're going to be able to beat Texas Tech. I'm not saying you're going to, but you're going to be able to beat Texas Tech. They're going to beat Northern Illinois in Fayetteville. They'll have Texas A&M.
That's a bold statement, my friend.
They're going to beat Northern Illinois. I'll just say it now. So at least 4 wins. Just watching what I'm talking about here, Nicholls State, probably Texas Tech. If not, I can understand if you have that as a loss. Northern Illinois, you're going to you're going to beat UAB. You're going to have a chance at Mississippi State. So 4 wins. If you go anywhere above that, I won't be too upset if you just get 4. But if you go anywhere above that, you play Alabama, Texas A&M, Georgia, LSU. I think Ole Miss will be pretty decent, but you got them at home, so you got a shot there. At Missouri, you're going to get beat. So you've got some wins there possibly, and you've got some pretty, UAB, you're going to beat UAB.
Oh,
they're terrible.
They're awful.
I mean, they can't even find a head coach.
Anytime your head coach.
Who did they interview?
Jim
Grobe.
Yeah, Jim
interviewing
Grobe. Former Arkansas hire. Jim Grobe.
Yeah, he was going to be the Arkansas coach.
No.
And now he's at UAB.
Now go back in time, though, but there are a lot of people that call that out as when they're like, Jeff Long is awful because they're mad that he fired Petrino. They point to Grobe as like the reasoning. He would have been there if Petrino hadn't fell in their lap. Look at that year and what Grobe had done at Wake Forest, literally the smallest D1 program in a major conference. He had just taken them to a BCS game. That was not a dumb hire.
I don't think that would have been. I wouldn't have. Look, for
It would not have. Clearly, it would not have panned out.
For all the uproar about Houston Nutt, if you can get me a better coach in Houston, fine. But Jim Grove was what you were going to bring me. I
would have been the same way. I'd have been like, "What the crap?"
That's kind
of where I am with the defensive. And you were talking about the defensive line coach, because I'm sort of the same way. If you bring in some scrub that we've never heard of, that's never done anything. Now, if you've got a guy who's accomplished something, like Rory Segrest, okay, he was in the NFC Championship game. He did some things at the NFL level. Samford, though, really, I'll be very frustrated if the defensive coordinator is not Randy Shannon and it is some scrub. Now, if Randy Shannon, you talked about this, and you can explain your thought here in a minute. If Randy Shannon's not the guy for another reason, that's fine, but you better bring somebody in who's worth a crap, because Arkansas's defense was terrible last year. I'm one who contends that it can't get worse than it was last year.
Clearly, it can.
I don't think it can.
You always
I'm not
say
talking
it can't
about.
get worse. We improved from the year before, so it can get worse.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. Brett Bielema is a defensive guy. He came from a defensive
Chris
background.
Ash,
2 years
Chris
ago,
Ash is a good
Arkansas didn't
defensive
have Paul Haynes.
Yeah.
So they were going to suck, and everybody knew it. So it's not there had to have been improvement last year, and you can't be as bad as last year because you've got so many. I mean, yes, Chris Smith is gone, but you still got Trey Flowers. If you can find anybody to rush on the other end and keep a double team off of him, if the linebackers can't be worse. The cornerbacks and safeties literally could not play blindfolded and play worse than they did this last year. So I expect the defense to get better. I'm not saying they're going to set the world on fire.
Who do you want as defensive coordinator?
I want Randy Shannon as the defensive coordinator just because of the cachet he'll bring you in recruiting, but apparently he doesn't want it.
I don't think he does. He did an interview when he was at TCU. Someone at the Dallas Morning Star, I think, maybe.
Morning News?
Morning News. Yeah, that's what it is. Star's a hockey team. Sorry, it's still early to me. They asked him straight up, why are you a position coach?
Yeah.
You're Randy Shannon. Yeah, you had some bad luck in Miami, but you can't tell me there's not a team out there that wants you for at least coordinator, not head coach. And he said, I kind of like the anonymity of being his favorite part is coaching linebackers and recruiting linebackers. That's what he's always loved to do more than anything else.
He's actually on 10 guys right now across the defense and even offense, so he's doing a good job
He's recruiting hard. He likes to recruit. And he likes to be able to help kids, and he doesn't like being the spotlight. So I don't think he wants the DC position.
And that's part of the reason. That's one thing I looked at. We talked about this on Wednesday. I think we hit it on Monday too. You have to make sure. I get Randy Shannon from a recruiting cachet standpoint big time. But you got to make sure he's capable of doing the job as far as coordinating the defense, that he feels that he can coordinate the defense. We think it would make sense, but maybe in his mind he's like, making a few $100,000, being a position coach, I don't have to deal with the pressure. There's some things that go into it as well. And again, I like that he's on these big time recruits. I want to see him close on, because the worst case scenario is if Randy Shannon, who you kind of question as his ability to coordinate a defense, I know he had Miami, but Lord have mercy, look at the talent he had coordinating at Miami. What if, because he's at Arkansas, he has a hard time closing the deal on those 4 or 5 star guys? Now you have a defensive coordinator that maybe is slightly above average, and he's not closing in on 4 and 5 stars, which is the primary reason you hired him anyway. That would really be a rough scenario to me.
And see, I like having him on staff because, like Mark said, of his recruiting abilities.
Yeah.
And, I am still on board that if they think Shannon if he wants the job, I think we should give it to him.
I agree with that.
Well, if he doesn't want the job, and like you said, say he just wants the anonymity of it, a couple years from now, if he does a good job recruiting, or even next year, if he does a good job recruiting, why don't you just name him recruiting coordinator, throw him some more money, and say, all right, we know you like the anonymity. Do you like it here? We're improving. You're going to get credit for all these great recruits that you've been on. Why don't we throw you another $100,000 and make you recruiting coordinator?
I mean, you think about it, he's really positioned himself pretty well if that's what he wants to do, because is there a better place where you can have that somewhat kind of anonymity from the media, but still be at a university that can pay you amount of money to be comfortable where you're used to making and get to live in like a nice place? Fable's a pretty good. There's only a handful of schools that can do that with him, and we can afford to. What's he make as a linebackers coach? Probably $350.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
It's probably a little less than that.
Maybe
but yeah,
a little less, but
I'll
yeah.
let me
Maybe
look
around
real quick.
But we can go high on what we pay him. If somebody else wants, because remember he took a lateral move from TCU to come here. If some other university like Ohio State or somebody like I did with Ash wants to offer him a little bit more to come be the same coach, we can still afford to pay him to keep him here, and I think we should.
And you've got a little bit more money to play with because I would imagine you're not paying Segrest as much as you paid Partridge.
No.
So you look at the pool. I think on a little bit more of a micro level, we have to look at is the actual position coaching because Randy Shannon's a linebackers coach. So if he's brought in, if he's elevated to defensive coordinator, he would probably still coach linebackers, but then you need to find somebody to coach your safeties. Because remember, Chris Ash coached safeties in addition to being the defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Contaver Johnson, do you want to give him corners and safeties? Some people barely want to give him corners, let alone giving him corners and safeties. So I think Brett Bielema, if he doesn't hire Randy Shannon, wouldn't surprise me if his next defensive coordinator also has safety experience as well.
Yeah.
So that's another factor in the game.
Randy Shannon made $315,000 last year, so he's
ain't bad.
That's a
he's
lot
got a pretty
for
good.
a
And if he
position coach.
wanted to be a non coordinator, if he wanted to be a recruiting coordinator or director of football do something like what Horton did a couple years ago, or just kind of a
and here's my
glorified
question,
role.
and I don't want to spark up a huge conversation about it, but it's a known fact that if we really wanted to throw down some cash, we can get someone like Butch Davis in that position.
It's not going to happen.
And no, it's not because they don't want to run the risk of the stuff that follows him around. But
As long as they don't hire John Blake, it should be all right.
yeah, that's true. But there's a lot of people on social media, and not just I mean that as in legitimately a lot that want Shannon as DC, and they want to hire Davis in the position in whatever position is open to get him here for recruiting.
Yeah, well,
purposes.
I'd be happy with having a guy like him recruiting. It's not going to happen, but it's like hiring Ed Orgeron. Somebody saying, give him $1 million and let him come in, or $800,000 or whatever it would take to get him. Make him recruiting coordinator and let him coach linebackers or let him be the defensive coordinator. Man, sometimes you just have to have some sort of common sense to talk about, gelling with the coaching staff, not just throwing a guy in there because he can recruit well. I don't know. I mean,
Well, but see,
Butch
that's
Davis,
the
a
thing.
lot
Davis
of people
has coached with Johnson and Shannon before.
A lot of people are high on Butch Davis. It's not going to happen, but I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to having a guy like Butch Davis on the staff as far as for his
what does
recruiting
make
and
me
coaching
laugh
abilities.
though, people don't realize that Davis has been like a consultant for the Bucks for
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
If he wanted to be in the college game, he'd be in the college game by now because he's been cleared of all the stuff at UNC, and he's no longer making UNC money on the side from getting fired or whatever it was. So if he wanted to be in the game, he'd be there. And I know he has ties to the state. I know he has a house. His family has property in
Northwest.
Arkansas. But clearly, he doesn't want that right now. So stop yelling about it and start looking around at defensive coordinators in kind of positions where they can move up to Arkansas. And you start looking at some like.
Well, yeah, and I think a question that it brings up now that we're talking about Randy Shannon's recruiting prowess, Butch Davis' recruiting prowess. What's the ceiling in terms of how well you can recruit at Arkansas? Because we've always said if you're going to succeed at Arkansas, overall you're going to have to end up doing more with less. So when you look at a recruiting standpoint, yes, you want to be able to recruit as well as possible. I guess my question would be, what's that ceiling? I don't think we can ever see Arkansas getting a top 5 class, but is the ceiling a top 15 class, top 20 class? What's the ceiling for recruiting?
Top 25 is good enough at Arkansas if you have a good coaching staff to win huge games, to get to that level of 10, 11, 12 wins. Petrino had one class in the top 20, and it was the class with Childs, Adams, Wright, that group. And a lot, and Petrino was blessed in that because he had this Arkansas stable that he got to stay in state. A lot of guys before he got there were going to leave the state. So, I mean, and that was his only class. And some of those guys did not pan out either. The kid, the Winston or whatever, he had some guys that just didn't pan out. So, you don't have to, every other class Petrino had was around 35 to 45. You don't have to have top 10 classes to win in Arkansas because if you recruit for what you want to do, that's fine. This defensive lineman over here, or offensive line might be a 3-star, but he's really good at pulling. And that's why we want him.
Yeah.
And he's a 5-star puller, but he's only 3-star rated. and he gets in here, gets in the system, gets built up. And by the time he's a sophomore or junior, is able to do everything else sufficiently, and he still pulls like a madman. And he opens up that swing to the outside that we run with Alex Collins. That is the type of recruiting you got to do at Arkansas. At Alabama, you can be like, I want that kid, and then he's going to come because you're Alabama. At Arkansas, you have to go recruit guys for your system.
So is there really a huge need, I guess, would bring me for Butch Davis? I guess overall what I'm wondering is, do you then have to sell out for a bunch of guys on your staff who can recruit but can't really coach? Not saying Butch Davis can't coach or even Randy Shannon can't coach, but do you really now have to sell out because, we got to get a top 10 class, whereas as you pointed out, if you can get in that top 25-ish neighborhood, that would be sufficient, which would, it kind of tells you what more do you need. Do you need grinders that can just coach and develop but may not be the most charismatic figures in the world? Or do you need guys with charisma who maybe from a coaching on-field standpoint are a little bit so-so?
Man, there is no tell. I'm looking here at Butch Davis information from Tampa Bay, and there is nowhere talking about how much he actually made. They're talking about how he got $2.7 million in severance from North Carolina, and that he couldn't coach at Tampa Bay, and he had to be a special assistant to the head coach. But it's saying here that he got probably $690,000, supposedly in the amount of $690,000. But no, that's from the Tar Heels. That's every year he's going to get $690,000.
Yeah.
But so I don't know what Tampa Bay could pay him, but Tampa Bay paid him something to be a special assistant. It's going to take a lot of money. I don't think Arkansas is going to be able to get Butch Davis. We're running out of time, so we want to get Corey. Tell us a little bit about your show, The Woodshed, starting February 4th, which is a Tuesday. It'll be every Tuesday at rivervalleyleader.com at 1 o'clock. You and Blake Smith host a show. What's it about?
It's basically I would say sports and pop culture type of entertainment show. We try to be lighthearted, be funny. We wouldn't really talk like we've talked today. As much as I love talking about the Razorbacks like that and about football in general and the playoffs or whatever else, that's not the kind of stuff we talk about. What we would talk about is the butt fumble, and we would talk about it incessantly if it had happened while we had a show going on. That's what we focus more on, is kind of the more absurd aspects of sport, and then pop culture. Like, for example, are they going to deport Justin Bieber after they raided his house and stuff? I think they should, because I want to see the storm that comes from it. But it's pretty similar.
It's going to be a fun show,
like a comedy podcasting type stuff. So we try to keep it lighthearted. Awesome. We're taking calls during the show. It's every Tuesday at 1 o'clock. We'll start running some promos. We came in and did a dry run show, and we got some stuff. We're going to run some promos and all that good stuff. And we had a lot of success with this show. We did it at Tech. We were Tech's #1 show, which doesn't mean much, but we did have listeners in New York, and I had a couple people in California that would sit around and listen, and we took calls over there illegally, and it was a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to having real equipment and real stuff to do the show on. So,
something, isn't it? And
I'm excited to be part of the River Valley Leader family.
This is the second Arkansas Tech radio show, KXRJ, that was the #1 show at Tech that moves on to River Valley Leader. So this is there's a pipeline.
Home. If you have talent at Tech, there's a home for you.
Yes, there is, and right here.
It's here.
Mark at rivervalleyleader.com is my email address. Just hit me up. We'd love to have you on and have you show your talent off to the world, man. This is a stepping stone, I know, for these guys who are going to be doing good stuff here in the future. All right, that's all the time we have for this segment. We're going to have to go take a break real quickly. This is Corey Thone with The Woodshed. Blake Smith. He does good voices.
He does. Blake does good voices. Blake is an associate producer at Channel 5 in Fort Smith, and he'll be here in studio, though, for the show on Tuesday. So
awesome.
Tuesdays at 1, The Woodshed, beginning February 4th. Stay with us right after this break. We'll be back to talk about the NFL playoffs.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
KRK4 today.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com. That
was a fun segment.
That was.
So fun. I'm just now putting my headset back on.
Whoa. Tony Kornheiser over here.
That was, dude, I want to be like Tony Kornheiser.
Speaking of Tony Kornheiser, did you not see the 30 for 30 yesterday on Tanya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan?
He was on it?
Oh, he was on
With
it.
his hair, dark hair, and more of it?
Well, I think he was back then, he was covering, he was back in the early 90s, and then, of course, he did the piece when they were interviewing. What a compelling story. I was young when all that stuff happened, and you hear people talk about it. Just going back and watching the 30 for 30, we all think Tanya Harding's crazy anyway. Nancy Kerrigan didn't even want any part of the interview. It was really fascinating, figure skating, drama, and women.
And Connie Chung saying, you know that nobody cares about you for your figure skating, right? Yeah. I saw that one part. That's all I saw, and I was obviously changing the channel to something I'd care to watch.
You didn't watch it?
No.
Oh, I watched the whole thing.
Well, I remember when it happened, all the stuff that was going on around it. Obviously, I was like 9 years old, but I do remember, why you beat me with a pipe? What the heck, man? It's crazy.
That was
the Tanya Harding goon going after Nancy Kerrigan. Anyway, I said it. Anyway, let's look at the NFL playoffs. We've only got a couple minutes left. We're going to tell you who's going to win the AFC and NFC championship games. We have talked about it all week, and we've sort of been I've been non-committal as far as who I think is going to win the games because San Francisco, Seattle, the NFC, that to me, I'm going to pick Denver in the AFC. Just spoiler alert. Two reasons. One, I love Peyton Manning. Two, I hate the New England Patriots.
We knew it.
So that's going to happen. But in the NFC, man, I've been going back and forth. Seattle's the home team. Their offense hadn't looked good lately, but they've got a defense like none other, except maybe the San Francisco 49ers, who've won 8 games in a row, and despite getting blown out in Seattle, hadn't lost since, if I'm not mistaken. And, man, they've just played incredible football down the stretch. Colin Kaepernick and his receivers kind of getting their rapport down. Frank Gore playing well. The defense still playing well. I'm going to go 21-20 San Francisco over Seattle simply because it's hard to stop the train once it gets rolling. I know that Seattle has beaten San Francisco. The only reason that I even think this is going to be close because right now I think San Francisco is playing better football than Seattle top to bottom, but that home field advantage in Seattle is a great equalizer. We don't know if it's going to be 4,000 degree wind or 4,000 mile an hour winds and 12 12-degree temperatures and rain like it always is in Seattle, or if it's just going to be them causing earthquakes out there with the fans going crazy right on top of the stands, or on top of the field. But there's going to be a home field advantage that Seattle's going to experience there. I somehow think, don't know how it's going to happen, couldn't tell you that, but I think San Francisco is going to overcome it all and win 21-20.
Wow.
What do you got?
Well, Mark, you've
gone back and forth.
Every part of me wants to pick the team who they're a bunch of bullies, they're rugged, they're thugs in a good way, they're unafraid. I've said for 2 years they've got the best head coach in football, of course, the San Francisco 49ers. But, Mark, you mentioned CenturyLink Field. It is loud. They cause earthquakes. So with all that being considered, I have to go with my gut. I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers. And here's why. You touched on it. They're playing better football. The Seattle Seahawks offense is a problem. Now, I think the X factor in this game to me is Darrell Bevel, offensive coordinator. Here's why. It's up to him to figure out not how to score 40 points. They're not going to do that. But it's up to him to figure out a way to get some first downs and keep the field position in Seattle's advantage. I already said this Wednesday. The field position is going to be critical. If I'm San Francisco, I think if I don't turn the ball over and I don't give up a big return and I make Seattle drive the ball 80 yards a full field on me every possession, they can't score hardly any points on me. If San Francisco takes care of the ball, makes that Seattle offense drive the ball, I don't see how they're going to put up points on the 49ers unless Darrell Bevel, from a design standpoint, does something special. And if he does, Seattle will win. I'm picking San Francisco.
It's going to be a good game regardless. If Seattle wins the game, and we're here Monday talking about a Seattle win and Super Bowl appearance, I wouldn't be surprised. We've got it both. I don't know if you give a score. Did you give a score?
I didn't give a score.
We both got it close regardless.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. Let's go 20 to 17. I'll go 20.
Both of us low-scoring games, defensive games, which if it's anything but that, I'll be very, very surprised. And like we said, we don't know the weather and the things that are going to come up. I watched the game last week or a couple weeks ago when New Orleans was in Seattle, and I had no idea what the weather was going to be like. Come out and it's raining and the wind's blowing. And I picked Seattle to win the game, but it's just like, well, if I'd known this, there's no question I'm picking Seattle to win this game. It's not even close. So we don't know what the weather will factor in. We're too lazy to do that kind of research. But then going over to the AFC Championship games, Denver, New England, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. That's really what this is about. The conversation all week has been about Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. Tom Brady's 3 Super Bowl wins, been a decade since he's won a real clutch game. He's been favored. I saw that he's been favored in, I think it's 10 playoff games since the Super Bowls that they've won, and he's lost over half. That's Tom Brady. So we're talking about Peyton Manning being a great regular season quarterback, but not a great playoff quarterback. He's 10-11 in his career. If he's to win the Super Bowl this year, he'll finally have gotten over 500 for his career in the playoffs. But all this comes down to legacy for me. Who's the better quarterback? By the end of this game, and this is probably going to be the last time. Now, maybe next year or at very most 2 more years from now, you'll see these two teams competing in the same capacity. But this is one of those things that this game is going to tell a lot of people who's the better quarterback, historically speaking, because Peyton Manning has done so much in the regular season. He's going to win another MVP. Well, he's won more MVPs than anybody already. He's going to win another MVP. It's just going to be his story decided in this one game. And I just think that's so much. I've got Denver winning 34-27 over New England. 2 reasons. One, I trust Peyton Manning with his weapons more than I trust Tom Brady's running game. I know that they've got LeGarrette Blount, who's 1,000 pounds of running back man coming downhill at you, but no Gronk, no Wes Welker. He's on the other team. You've got some guys that that hadn't quite been there before in the past. Now Tom Brady is Tom Brady, and he's going to do some good with whatever he's got. He's historically been best when he's had no-name guys, but at the end of the day, I just trust Peyton Manning more with his weapons at home than I do Tom Brady. I think it's going to be 34-27, and it may just be wishful thinking.
Well, it's gonna be a great game. There's no question about it. You look at these teams when they're stacked up side by side, and I don't think it's even close. The Denver Broncos are the better team, and I think what it's going to take for New England Denver's going to have to make mistakes. They're going to have to make Denver do some things, be it turn the ball over or make errors defensively. The game is Denver's to lose, as far as I'm concerned. It's going to take, unfortunately, a Peyton Manning interception or a Raheem Moore blown coverage, hail Flacco. I mean, it's going to take something like that because in the end, you mentioned the weapons Denver has. No Julius Thomas in the previous matchup. We've already said the game's not going to flow the way it did. New England's not going to turn the ball over repeatedly, giving Denver a short field and easy scores, which I think will help Peyton Manning because he wasn't able to get into a rhythm that last game because Denver had a short field. New England kept turning the ball over. Game was all out of sequence. I think it'll be more of a normal flow game. I think Peyton Manning will get it done. I mean, you get to a point when you're a man and you're in your career, it comes to a point to where all of the losing and all the scars, they tend to callous over to the point to where that pressure and anxiety you felt in the early and mid 2000s in the playoffs, you become numb to it because you've had it happen to you over and over. And that's why I don't see the whole pressure choke artist thing going down in this game. I think Peyton Manning, who has more weapons, who is on the better team, will win. The Denver defense will have to play their role because they'll have to stop that running game and keep the Patriots from melting the clock and keeping Manning on the sideline. I think they'll do enough. I got the Denver Broncos, let's call it 34-30. Denver Broncos.
34-30. Chris Harris being out, cornerback for the Denver Broncos, played more snaps on defense than anybody for the Broncos. That's gonna take a toll. There's gonna be an impact there. But like you said, playing at home, all the implications. I know. I don't know Peyton Manning personally, but just from hearing his story and from seeing the work ethic, that he has reportedly shown in his career, he is going to put every single thing he's got into this game. And I mean, literally pour it all out there. And then if they win, he's going to start preparing again for the Super Bowl. But I honestly don't think if there's ever been a week that somebody just prepared for one game and one game only, it's going to be Peyton Manning this week. He's going to have to deal with his receivers getting held up, getting grabbed and yanked and pulled, and a great defensive scheme from Bill Belichick and a great quarterback, an all-time great in Tom Brady. But I just trust that Peyton Manning's going to get it done. Like I said, it could be wishful thinking, but I hope and pray that Denver can get it done.
And I'll reiterate, Mark, and those are good points. I'll reiterate what I said on Wednesday. Officiating is going to be the deciding factor. We know if New England's allowed to get away with a lot in the secondary, it'll be a tough day for Denver's offense. If they're calling things and not being ticky-tack, but if they're calling things as they happen, I think it's advantage Denver.
Yeah, you'll see Aqib Talib and Demaryius Thomas most likely.
Yeah.
So you'll have a guy like Wes Welker who can have a big impact. You have guys like Eric Decker who may be able to have a good game. And I really just think that Denver is not going to get caught with the same thing that happened last time where New England just basically said, all right, we're going to hold on to your receivers every play and you're going to run it. And Noshawn Moreno went for 200 and they still lost.
And some of that may happen. That's when we came in after that game the following Monday, and I got on Demaryius Thomas because Demaryius Thomas chickened out. Here he is, physically a top 5 receiver in the game in terms of speed, size, all that good stuff. He let a little bit of physicality completely just rock his world, take him out of the game. If he's that mentally weak again, that will be a problem. He can't do that.
All right, we've run out of time. So Arkansas, Georgia tomorrow, 12:30 tip from Athens. We'll talk a little bit about the defensive coordinator position because eventually they're going to hire a coach. We'll have to see. And one final thing, baseball, Major League Baseball, 30-0 unanimous vote by the owners to approve what Bud Selig calls a historic expansion of replay to correct missed calls. Basically everything but balls and strikes will be able to be reviewed by umpires, and they'll be able to challenge calls and things like that. So it's a little bit of NFL challenge stuff in baseball. It's sort of one of those things that's been coming for years, and it's finally time for baseball to get with it.
I'm glad baseball got to this point. The review process should be efficient. You'll be able to go look under the monitor. They'll have somebody in New York doing replays. The only question is, if you're a team where you have your batter kind of stand out of the box long enough to give you a replay look, I think they'll figure those things out. I think it's good for baseball.
Yeah, I think it is too. All right, we'll be back on Monday with more Sports Blitz. Thank you to Corey Thone for visiting with us. For Weldon and Maddie, I'm Mark saying so long. 11 o'clock Monday morning at rivervalleyleader.com.